Hello, everyone, and welcome to the virtual tour of the Richmond region. Thank you all for joining us today. We have people tuning in from all corners of the globe, including Ireland, Italy, Turkey, India, and South Korea, just to name a few. We have a great agenda outlined for you today, including a kickoff video highlighting what it's like to live, work, and play in our community, a regional overview showcasing our competitive advantages as a place to do business, and an international panel of local executives who will share their firsthand experience of integrating into the United States and operating a business in the Richmond region. But first, it is my honor to introduce Select USA's Acting Executive Director and Deputy Executive Director for welcoming remarks, Mr. Bill Burwell.
Good morning, Audrey, and thank you so much for the opportunity to kick off the program this morning. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you all for joining today's program, the Select USA Virtual Tour of Richmond, Virginia, featuring opportunities in the manufacturing and biotechnology sector. The virtual tour of Virginia that we're about to enjoy this morning is part of the Select USA Virtual Tour series and is organized in collaboration with the Greater Richmond Partnership. My name is Bill Burwell, and as Audrey mentioned, I'm the Acting Executive Director and Deputy Executive Director of Select USA. I'm happy to be speaking with you all today, and I look forward to the great presentations led by our partners in Virginia. Select USA is the government-wide initiative dedicated to facilitating and promoting high-impact business investment into the United States. Since inception, Select USA has facilitated over $81 billion in client-verified deals and supporting over 100,000 U.S. jobs. Last year alone, Select USA helped facilitate over $17 million in deals and supporting over 14,000 U.S. jobs. This is really important as FDI makes a difference in local communities all across the United States. In Virginia, for example, according to the latest annual data, over 210,000 U.S. jobs were supported by majority-owned foreign firms. Hopefully you're all familiar with the Select USA team and what we can do to support business investors to succeed in the United States. For those who may be less familiar, we're here to assist you in finding your next investment location. Select USA works one-on-one with companies, and our team has a proven track record of successfully connecting international companies and partners with resources to help them achieve their investment goals in the United States. Our services include information and counseling, FDI facilitation events like the one you're experiencing today, and assistance navigating the federal regulatory system. Select USA works closely with economic development organizations across the U.S., and through the virtual tours, we're able to offer business investors like yourselves an overview of existing opportunities in different sectors and locations. Until we're able to gather in person, the Select USA team will continue partnering with economic development organizations to offer virtual tours of locations all across the U.S. And you can see a listing of these upcoming events and locations on our website at selectusa.gov. I'd like to strongly encourage all of you to join and take full advantage of the 2021 Select USA Investment Summit. While virtual for the first time, this summit will maintain the core principles of the annual event and will incorporate similar themes and fundamental concepts. The Investment Summit will feature hundreds of virtual sessions, a virtual exhibition hall featuring economic development organizations and service providers, and a robust networking platform where participants can make the connections they need to push their investments forward. To learn more, you can visit our website at selectusasummit.us, or you can email us at susaevents@trade.gov. If you would like to RSVP for upcoming investment programs, please visit our website, selectusa.gov, and subscribe to our mailing list to receive the updates. As an added benefit, we'd like to invite you to register to schedule one-on-one virtual meetings with the members of the Greater Richmond Partnership. To register for this free event, please visit our website, selectusa.gov, and go to upcoming events page to reserve your space. Meetings will take place all day on Thursday, February 25th. Select USA and our colleagues located in the U.S. Commercial Service in Richmond are here to assist your company if you have any questions. I'd like to thank the Greater Richmond Partnership and all of our speakers today for putting on this great program. We look forward to welcoming you to the 2021 Select USA Investment Summit in June. And with that, the Greater Richmond Partnership, the EDO hosting this virtual tour, has asked me to introduce their video highlighting what the Richmond region has to offer. Please enjoy the video and please enjoy the great program this morning. Thank you so much, Audrey.
We're a city of cobblestones
and rock.
We've got Fortune 500s
and the 1600s.
Business Inc.
and some serious ink.
A river runs through our city.
And joggers run next to our heroes.
We're the home of Jefferson, Pocahontas, Poe, and the Geico Caveman.
Home to the fed and the well-fed.
We climb ladders and scale walls.
We preserve history. We make history.
We are Greater Richmond, Virginia. Take a look around. You'll see why people want to visit and why they keep coming back to stay. Richmond is the capital of Virginia, named one of the best states in America to do business. We've got Fortune 1000 companies and Fast Company headliners. And our businesses are thriving because our people are thriving. Inspiration is everywhere. Art, science, history, it's all around you. And more than 500 historic markers tell you just how important this place really is. St. John's Church. Here, Patrick Henry said, "Give me liberty or give me death."
No wonder this place feels so free. You're free to dance. You're free to sing. You're free to pack up your social calendar or just hang out and relax. We've got more than 1,800 restaurants in this region. There's shopping and shopping and shopping. And smack dab in the middle of it all, there's the James River with a story that runs deep. This river was explored by the British as far back as 1607. Today, it's filled with kayakers, whitewater rafters, and boaters who cut right through Richmond's downtown on Class 4 rapids. Greater Richmond is the outdoors. We've got huge parks, zoos, award-winning bouquets, and award-winning bouquets. Yes, this is eye candy, brought to you by nature.
You have kids? Well, this is the place to get the Mom of the Year award. There'll be some yelling, maybe some throwing, possibly some kicking, horseplay, and some major horsepower too. And if you feel like getting out of town, you're at the crossroads of both 95 and 64. That puts you 2 hours or less from the beach, the mountains, and the nation's capital. In Greater Richmond, even staying home is interesting because, well, look at the homes. We've got one of the biggest neighborhoods of Victorian architecture in the nation. We've got a hill packed with pre-Civil War homes, cannons, cul-de-sacs, and country estates. And when you tell your big city friends how much your house costs, they're gonna want to move here too. Greater Richmond school systems are a huge draw for families. Schools here are always getting awards and being named as some of the best in the country. And the region has a major college presence, which really keeps it young and exciting. Here you can learn in a college setting, learn on the job, or learn something just by walking down the street. That's the Richmond area.
It's a place where you can learn about what's happened.
And make it happen yourself.
A place that's easy to live in.
And to have a really good time in.
Everything's within 20 minutes.
But it's a million miles from the ordinary. Check it out yourself. You'll love what you find.
Bienvenido, bienvenue, willkommen, benvinda.
Welcome to the Greater Richmond Region. My name is Audrey Polk, and I am the Vice President of Business Development for the Greater Richmond Partnership. The Greater Richmond Partnership is the lead regional economic development organization for the City of Richmond and the counties of Chesterfield, Hanover, and Henrico. We attract new companies to the region by marketing the region globally, providing in-depth market data, and generating quality leads. We can help your company in a multitude of ways. We work with the private and public sectors to provide companies with the resources and connections necessary to make the ideal site location decision. We deliver customized research and tailor-made itineraries to meet your company's unique needs. We also maintain working relationships with local international business executives, tax accountants, immigration attorneys, real estate professionals, and universities, who we will happily introduce you to. If you have a question or a need, our team is available to help you find a solution. While we would love to welcome you in person one day soon, for now, we welcome you virtually to the Richmond region. We're the capital of Virginia and a thriving metropolitan area of approximately 1.3 million people. We have incredible supply chain advantages, including our proximity to the U.S. population. Within a 1 day's drive, you can reach 45% of the U.S. population. Within a 2 days' drive, you can reach 75% of the U.S. population. Within 1 day, you can also reach half of the most populous cities in the U.S. This is largely due to our integrated supply chain infrastructure that allows you to move your people and product in and out of our community with ease. We have 3 major highways that intersect within the Richmond region. Interstate 95, which runs from Maine, our northernmost East Coast state, to Florida to the southeast. Interstate 64, which runs from Virginia's coastlines to the Midwest and Missouri. And Interstate 85, beginning within our region and connecting you to the southeast and Alabama. We're rail served by CSX and Norfolk Southern, and home to the Richmond International Airport, which offers direct flights to most major U.S. cities, including our nation's capital of Washington, D.C., which is only a 2-hour drive, a quick train ride, or a short fly away. We're also home to the Richmond Marine Terminal, a barge service operating 5 days a week out of our city along the James River, connecting you to the Port of Virginia. You can also truck your product along Interstate 64 to the Port of Virginia, where you will be at the 3rd largest port on the East Coast by TEUs in less than 2-hour drive. We're home to 11 Fortune 1000 headquarters, representing a multitude of industries, from distribution giants, Owens & Minor, or Performance Food Group, to technology and insurance firms Markel and Genworth. But there's certainly no shortage of manufacturing in the Richmond region. We're home to the largest DuPont facility in the world. Our manufacturing community represents many international companies who have successfully landed in the region as well, such as Fareva, Anord Mardix, ProSeal, Alfa Laval, Cartograph, Anton Par, and many more. We're home to the largest hummus processing plant in the world, Sabra Hummus. We also have Mondelez for crackers and biscuits, Sanjay for tamari and soy sauce, Pepsi Bottling Co., and Marchand noodles. Virginia is a very welcoming, inclusive community for international companies. The state of Virginia has over 1,000 international companies represented statewide, with over 200 of those companies located here within the Richmond region. Our highest concentration of local companies are from the UK, Germany, France, and Japan. Our international community is a part of why we have a world-class workforce. With over 665,000 people in our civilian workforce, the Richmond region offers ample human capital to power your business. Currently, our unemployment rate is at a healthy 5%, just below the U.S. average and hovering around Virginia's average. Within the Richmond region, there's no shortage of employees, with over 30,000 local employees supplying the manufacturing sector alone, indicating there's no shortage of talent to fuel your enterprise. Within a 3-hour drive, there are over 30 educational institutions outside of the Richmond region. Some of the top engineering talent is sourced from some of these schools, such as Virginia Tech or the University of Virginia. And here in our own backyard, we're home to 3 incredible universities: the University of Richmond, Virginia Union University, and Virginia Commonwealth University, who just this month announced the opening of a brand new $93 million research and engineering school located in the heart of downtown Richmond. There are also ample resources at the technical level, including apprenticeship programs through the Department of Labor and Industry and the Community College Workforce Alliance, who's designed specifically to address industry needs and provide tailor-made solutions to companies. There's also the Virginia CareerWorks Capital Workforce Board, who's a team of professionals available to offset hiring costs by pre-screening applicants, hosting job fairs, and connecting the unemployed to local businesses hiring in the area, often at no cost to the company. These are just a couple of the highlights of our workforce ecosystem that's available to support your needs, whatever they may be. And last but certainly not least is our high quality of life. With an affordable cost of living and housing rates 7% below the national average, we are a great place to not only bring your business and grow your business, but for you and your family to live and thrive. We're very proud of our short commute of only 25 minutes on average, as well as our proximity to the nation's capital, the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains, and Virginia beaches, all within less than 2 hours. So we invite you to join us February 25th to continue the conversation with our team. The link should be sent in your chat box shortly. Please note, if that date does not work for you, you're always welcome to reach out to us on our website at www.grpva.com. So merci, gracias, danke. Thank you all so much for your time. I will now hand it off to Casey Gilchrist and our international panelists.
Thank you, Audrey. I'm thrilled to be moderating the panelist discussion this morning. Before we get started, and as our panelists turn on their videos and audio, I encourage all of our attendees to submit questions at any point during this discussion. We've added time in at the end to address any questions you may have. All right, so we have some outstanding company representatives from across our region joining us today that I'm eager to introduce. From Henrico County is Joe Van Horen. Joe is the president and CEO of Alfa Laval. Joe, can you please share a brief description about Alfa Laval?
Yeah, company, we are a multinational company. Our headquarters are in Sweden, but we are well represented in the US with more than 30 locations as well. And we are component manufacturing for components like heat exchangers, separation equipment, and pumps and valves. So supplier to many process industries.
Thank you, Joe. Also joining us today is Reinhard Eberl, Executive Director of the Americas for Anton Par. Anton Par is located in Hanover County. Reinhard, can you also provide a brief description of Anton Par?
Sure. We are an Austrian manufacturer, and we are a premier supplier of scientific laboratory instrumentation, which are used in a variety of industries, starting with food and beverage, personal care, petrochemical, plastic, polymers. And all these instruments are used for either R&D or quality control applications to investigate or characterize liquids or solids.
Thank you, Reinhard. Next, representing Chesterfield County, we have Gary Wyatt, CEO of ProSeal America. Gary, briefly just tell us about ProSeal America.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. ProSeal America are an engineering company, principally that design and manufacture food packaging machines. We are particularly conscious on sustainability and also the preservation of food and food safety. Engineering manufacturing in Richmond, Virginia.
Thank you, Gary. And finally, joining us from the city of Richmond is Sean Monahan, COO of Stone Brewing. Sean, can you please share a little bit about Stone?
Good morning. So Stone Brewing is one of the largest independent brewers of craft beer. We happen to be headquartered and based in San Diego. But as we grew, we're now distributed in all 50 states as well as about 30 countries. Internationally, we expanded to the East Coast and decided to put our East Coast home in Richmond.
Thank you, Sean, and welcome panelists. Let's go ahead and jump into our discussion. I'd first like to start off with our international panelists. I'm interested to hear about your experience integrating into the Richmond region community. So Joe, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. You've lived and worked in various countries around the world. How was it for you moving to the Richmond region?
Well, actually, it felt really pretty easy, honestly. I mean, to get connected in the US is extremely easy. I felt immediately home. It's a very environment to live in the Richmond area. And then moreover, of course, for me, it was actually the first time really dealing with business in the US. And I felt that also the business culture is really a win-win culture compared to some other parts of the world where it's not always. Overall, it was really a very welcoming experience.
That's great to hear. And Reinhard, Anton Parr has been in Hanover County for quite a while. Can you talk about your personal experience acclimating into the community?
Sure. Well, the company has been in the Hanover County area for about 35 years, but for me it has been 20. And if I remember back those days, it was a very welcoming experience, especially for someone who enjoys the outdoors. It's a great place to live. And also, you know, coming from abroad, you don't really know what to expect, I guess, moving into any country. And I felt that we were very welcomed from day one. And it was actually quite interesting that locals were quite interested about our background, about our culture, our perspective of things. And quickly, we really fell in love with the Richmond area. And after, well, within less than 2 years, we started building our first home and started a family. And we have been calling Richmond our home since then.
Reinhard, you're a true Richmonder now. Welcome. Gary, you shared with me previously that you actually joined a football league, or in America, we call it soccer. Can you expand upon your experience first locating to the Richmond region?
Yes, absolutely, no problem. I first actually want to say thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to give back. My experience and the handling of our landing in the US was exceptional. So I'm very happy to participate. We were first introduced to the GRP by Manchester Chamber of Commerce. We knew we were going to come to the US, and we looked over 3 particular destinations. And I'd previously been down to Australia to set up Procyon on Australia a couple of years previous, and the experience was 100% different. The introductions to the vital questions that we needed answering in terms of workforce, we were intent on actually establishing a manufacturing facility, and obviously key to that would be the ability of available labor and workforce. So they bought in. Virginia is obviously very sort of bought into the apprenticeship vocational educational programs, and the introductions I got to them and the professional services made it very easy.
And Gary, sticking with you a little bit more, you obviously had firsthand experience working with the Greater Richmond Partnership. What did you find to be most helpful to you while making your decision to locate to the Richmond region? Well,
first of all, given the difficulties that we experienced in Australia, we knew perhaps what to look for, but it was the ease, organized trips, introductions to the universities, the School of Engineering, to the blue collar colleges. So they were able to listen to me, but give choice. You know, it's not just about workforce, it's also about the supply chain, etc. And everything we asked for, we were given a good choice of people to choose from, all your major players in terms of accounting. So the different levels of choice, we actually were very small. We were nothing when we came. So we couldn't perhaps afford the high corporate lawyers. So we were given a nice span of obviously skill sets that fitted our needs.
Yeah, the Greater Richmond Partnership is essentially an extension of your team while you're contemplating, you know, where to locate in the Richmond region. So that's great to hear feedback from you, Gary. And shifting things a little bit to Sean, Stone Brewing shares a little bit of a different perspective in that your company is headquartered on the West Coast in California, yet you identified the Richmond region as an area of interest for your East Coast location. Can you share with us why your company selected the city of Richmond as your East Coast headquarters?
I'm glad to. I mean, there were a variety of factors as we were looking for where could we efficiently set up our brewing operation. So part of it, we looked at 20 plus cities across the US. But ultimately, it came down to one, logistics, market access. Beer is 90+% water, so access to roads and ability to cover the U.S. We actually ship as far west as the Rockies right now. It's more advantage than even our brewery in California, as well as we have for European customers, they have great access through the ports. But also just came the welcomeness of the city. The EDA and the city worked with us very closely on some key requirements. So the facility, water access, effluent treatment, and even members of the city council came out to San Diego to better understand who Stone is and what our requirements are. So just this real kind of engagement that I think made the difference.
And that's a great story. Sean, I'd like to stick with you a little bit more. You have a unique perspective in that you've been in the Richmond region for over 30 years in various roles with various companies. Can you share how Richmond has transformed recently and how those changes have influenced Stone in a positive way?
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to. So my prior life, as I say, I used to be, and I was in consulting for 30 years before I joined Stone just about 3 years ago. And I had numerous clients. I lived up in Washington, D.C. area and had numerous clients down here in Richmond. So I've been coming to Richmond since 1986, I think was my first time. And just over the years to see it, come from, it was a city where you could go and had some clients, but it wasn't a place to really kind of stay. To over the years, it's developed, and now the college access, the community, it's a vibrant art scene, music scene, food and restaurants, very diverse neighborhood. So it's a really welcoming, just a great place to live, as well as continue to be a great business community.
Yeah, and sharing a similar perspective, Joe, I'd like to pivot to you. Alfa Laval manufactures at over 70 sites across the globe. Can you share what advantages your firm has experienced manufacturing your product here in the community of Henrico?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as I said earlier, we have about 30 sites in the US only, but the site in Richmond is our headquarters. And that means in our headquarters, we employ many different functions. We do manufacturing. We also have a service center. But besides that, we have various functions like marketing, sales, HR people, finance people. So it's a large group of different talents which we need actually. And besides that, Richmond is a very good place to find locally the right talent. Sometimes we need also talent, very specific talent, whether it's from different locations in the US or even from our mother company in Europe. And then, of course, it's really nice to see that actually it's very attractive for people to come and live in Richmond, and because obviously that's often also very important if you want to convince people to come and work for you in Richmond, also privately, and the family needs to find it a good place to stay, and absolutely that's the case with Richmond.
Yeah, and we'll get into talking about workforce a little bit later. I kind of want to shift gears a little bit. For most companies, the bottom line strongly influences business decisions. So I kind of wanted to talk about the costs of doing business in the Richmond region. And Gary, if it's okay, I'd like to start with you. Relative to other markets, how does the Richmond region compare in terms of business-friendly costs, including tax structures, utility rates, or even construction costs?
That's a very interesting question that we can go very deep into. Being somewhat naive in terms of establishing a manufacturing plant in the US, we only had the Australian comparison, which was there. But overall, it's something that we originally didn't manufacture anything, and then we bit more and more responsibility for our mothership is in Manchester, England. And we are being progressing and manufacturing more and more. In comparison, we found that labour costs are significantly higher than the UK. Whether material costs, and given the fact that our retail costs of our equipment, it's actually on a par. I think if you look at the cake manufacturing in the UK manufacturing compared to the US, I think it's about the same size. It's just carved up differently.
And Reinhard, do you share the same perspective or experience at Anton Par?
Sure. Well, in my case, since I have responsibility for all of the Americas, I often compare various costs and so forth with the other subsidiaries we have. We have subsidiaries in Canada, Brazil, Colombia, and also Mexico. So if you look at these countries, for sure, labor costs, personnel costs are relatively high. But on the other hand, within the United States, I think Richmond, Virginia is a very favorable location as far as these costs are concerned. And for a company who is a global player or a company who wants to become a global player, the United States is one of the economies no company should ignore. For Anton Par, the US revenues still account for about 20% of the global revenues, despite of some other countries like China and so forth having stronger GDP growth. The US remains the biggest economy for Anton Par. And again, for that reason, I think the US market cannot be ignored.
Thank you, Reinhard. And something that has echoed throughout a lot of the comments as it relates to the Richmond region is its location. And it's one of our many advantages here in the region, especially as it relates to interconnectivity in a multitude of facets, specifically as it relates to transportation. So Reinhard, I'd like to stick with you. How has the region's location and connectivity been beneficial to Anton Par's supply chain or just overall business operation?
Sure. Well, things have changed quite a bit over the years. Over the last 20 years, infrastructure has improved greatly. For most of our goods, they come from overseas, either from Austria, Germany, or Switzerland. So we import the majority of our goods, and that's usually done within 3 business days. And that's great because even within the United States, it oftentimes with ground deliveries, it takes more than 3 days. But for us, air freight coming into Washington Dulles, and then by trucks coming down here to the Richmond location, and that within 3 days is great. So for moving products, great infrastructure. Also for our employees to travel. Within the United States, we have 3 other offices: Chicago, Illinois, Los Angeles, California, and Houston, Texas. And we have now all direct flights to all of these locations. And why I said 20 years ago, I had to travel to Washington Dulles or Baltimore by car in order to take a national flight to wherever location was needed. And this was a great improvement over those years.
It's great to hear. And speaking of moving products, Gary, ProSteel is a heavy port user, specifically the Port of Virginia. How has the port helped with your operation at ProSteel?
I think the best way to describe that is it's been seamless. We're heavily dependent on a large manufacturing plant in the UK. We're shipping particularly roughly about 2 to 3 containers a week into the Port of Norfolk. It's a 12-day transit time from leaving Manchester to arriving in Richmond, Virginia. Relatively inexpensive, and we've got a great relationship because of the activity. So I found it very, very useful. And the amounts of the products that we import are products from Manchester, but also the raw materials that we get are significantly available through the local infrastructure. We actually used to ship raw material in the early days, but now we've managed to make all the links that we needed to. That has made a big difference. We also have the option of flying in as well, so we are able to fly products in which come through Richmond International Airport. Again, it's seamless.
That's great to hear. You have a lot of options in the Richmond region when it comes to getting your product to you. Joe, I'd like to circle back with you. You travel back and forth between Europe and Richmond quite frequently. How does the location of the Richmond region aid in doing business with your clients and colleagues in Europe?
I think I was muted. Actually, I think it's great. It's a very good connection. I mean, there is first of all, it's also a lot of these days digital meetings. So the time difference is only 6 hours with Europe. So that doesn't make it too complicated. But then also, I mean, the connections are very good. Even you can take a flight out of Richmond to be connected maybe out of Washington and go to or through New York to be immediately connected to Europe. So it's pretty smooth to come in and out.
And I've been monitoring the question and answer section. I figured I'd throw this one in here since we're on the topic. Someone wants to know, how is flight accessibility to the European markets? Joe, how about let's start with you?
Yeah, I mean, again, the flight accessibility is good. All European carriers have their favorite destinations, whether they fly on New York, whether they fly on Washington, D.C., or whether they fly on Atlanta. Those are really the big international hubs, I would say. And from any of those airports, there are regular flights to Richmond. Even if you would fly on Washington, it's only a 2-hour drive. Basically, you can, if you don't want to drive yourself after having such a long flight, then you take an Uber taxi or you rent a car, and 2 hours later you are in Richmond.
Thanks, Joe. Gary, do you have any comments in terms of the access to European markets through the flight from Richmond?
No, I was a little bit disappointed with all the good things that were telling us to come to Richmond. It was a little frustrating in the early days to have to either drive up to DC or indeed. However, you know, becoming a million miles pre-COVID a year, I actually sort of really prefer it. The beauty of RIC is you can drive literally up to the terminal. There are no long lines in the TSA, and for the time you spend traveling up to or try to check in at Dulles, it's actually quite a relaxing experience. So I'm very comfortable with it now. I am.
I definitely share the same sentiments when it comes to not having to rush to the airport. It's a stress-free process. So I kind of want to shift things a little bit to workforce. It's a huge topic for many companies when they're considering bringing their location here to the United States. I will say, being in the Richmond region, as it relates to the interconnectedness that we talked about earlier, you're able to draw from a large, highly qualified labor pool. As Audrey mentioned in the early video, the average commute is around 25 minutes, so you can pull from a large area. Joe, how would you describe the local workforce, and what resources do you use to support your talent pipeline?
And I think that there is a large variety of local workforce available, and especially also very good and young talent, I would say, due to the universities. There are so many universities based in the Richmond area. Our company, we need typically a lot of engineers, but also a lot of business people and marketing people. And in that sense, it is really a good area to be in. And at the same time, for blue collar workers, we haven't seen any major difficulties to get the right skills so far. So I think the local market, the local accessibility to workforce is really good.
Thanks, Joe. And Sean, how about you with Stone Brewing? What has your experience been in recruiting talent?
Yeah, our success has been great. It began kind of day one. We worked with some of the local agencies and the EDA to have a number of open houses when we were recruiting. We were also very committed to recruiting from the East End when we first moved here. And then just as time has developed, we can access engineers, packaging specialists. And for QA, we frequently go to Virginia Tech. We have a lot of people coming out of there for quality position. So no issues at all. And if we have to go out of town, then it's easy to recruit people to Richmond.
That's great to hear. And Gary, what was your experience in Chesterfield?
Yes, certainly. I actually want to try and focus on recruitment a little bit, because I think it's important to know we in the UK, and me personally, we came into business through an apprenticeship scheme, vocational sort of growing up, and in the UK we now have 600 employees, and it's fundamental to our roots. There's an expression: if it's not broken, don't fix it. And we were very keen to try and replicate the apprenticeship program that we had in Manchester. And it was one of the big things when talking to GRP initially, how Virginia as a state has really buys into the apprenticeship program. And it's been key to our development. We literally, when I came, there was just me. We're now at 100 people. In the next 3 years, we do, as we embrace full manufacturing, we do expect to expand up to 200, 250. And I am not worried looking into the crystal ball of the next 3 years. Is that a labour going to be available? We are now an accredited apprentice trainer. We do our own training. We've got a good number of people who have now graduated through that program. We're plugged into the high schools, in particular the tech centres. An interesting thing, similar tale to Reinhardt's about the airport, but a different subject. We had a careers fair from the high schools. About 8 years ago was our first one. We literally had 3 people, and they were really just pushed there by the schools. They didn't want to be there. Today, when we run that program, we have to split it into 3 different sessions that all fully attended. That's over 60 kids coming in every year looking for a career in engineering. So as we go forward, we're very comfortable that Richmond will be able to provide. Chesterfield County have been exceptional on this, from very hands-on, holding our hands, making the right introductions. And so in terms of recruitment, of course, we've got professional people, we have finance controllers, etc. But I wanted to just focus on that attitude to apprenticeships and how it's benefited us.
Thank you, Gary. And I know you've had multiple expansions in Chesterfield County. Do you maybe want to share what you find to be successful that kind of contributed to those successful multiple expansions in Chesterfield?
Yeah, well, we're a business that I don't know any of the attendees here, but we've never borrowed money. We expand as we can through our own cash flow. So to develop that, I particularly work with Tina Shreve in the Chesterfield area, and before we purchased properties, we were looking for properties that not only would suit us now, that we could expand, and the whole process of understanding what we were buying and what we could expand it to. Then we found a neighbouring factory was available, and again we involved Tina, and we were asked if we could actually join 2 lots. And then finally, we've got 3 facilities now, but finally it was important to us that because we've now got a workforce of 100, that we can find a piece of land for a greenfield, and we've located that. The incentives are there from the Chesterfield County, and so we do have plans to build a 200,000 square foot facility in the next 3 years as we sort of take on more. So it's been a great experience.
That's great to hear. And Reinhard, I know Anton Par requires a highly specialized skill set. Can you share how your company has successfully recruited talent, or perhaps even created your own to support your operation?
Sure. Well, actually, recruiting, that has been the biggest obstacle for us, not because of the location of Richmond, but just as you mentioned, because of the field we are in. We're in the field of STEM. So we primarily need engineers or chemists, but in addition to that educational background, we need them to interface with customers for either sales or service activities. So that's the second factor contributing or adding to this. And then the third one is they need to travel, and they need to travel a lot. And a lot means 3 to 4 nights away from family every single week. And having the combination of those 3 is tough to find. And we're expanding like 20 employees every year. And at that scale, it has been challenging to find employees fast enough. But what I really liked with the Richmond area, because it's a really attractive place to live, like you mentioned earlier, cost of living is at the nation's average level. And if the 4 seasons, and it's really a place people want to live, especially with families. So saying that is half of our workforce here in Richmond has actually relocated here. And that was fairly easy because of what the region has to offer. In addition to that, we also started an apprenticeship program similar to what Gary mentioned. And we are now in year number 2 with 10 apprentices in total. And this is the plan for our future to basically groom our own workforce.
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing from everyone, it sounds like everyone in the region, whether it's a workforce partner or a local economic developer, we're here to help you find solutions and get over any problems that you may face. And speaking of that, or an expansion on that, I'd like to shift over to permitting. I know that sometimes permitting is a little bit of a concern for prospective companies locating to a new area, especially if they're going to be making any major renovations or building a facility from the ground up. Sean, I know Stone built their facility in the city of Richmond. Can you share what your experience was like working with the local government officials to get your operation up as soon as possible? Maybe touch on permitting and how it impacted your timeline, if at all.
Yeah, we built in a true kind of greenfield. In many ways, it was a brownfield because it had historically been developed, and it was time to kind of redevelop it. But I think it was within 18 months of our decision, we were brewing our first beer. So the city was, very accommodating in helping us get the appropriate permitting. There's a number of great engineering firms in town, which isn't critical when you need to build some pretty complicated infrastructure. So we had those resources. The permitting was easy, and so we were up and running, as I said, in like 18 months, which is pretty aggressive.
Yeah, that is aggressive. And from my understanding, you are a heavy water user. Could you elaborate more on maybe the symbiotic relationship you have with the city's utility department?
Yeah, so, as I said, we use a lot of water. So it was one, making sure we had appropriate access to that. But also we do have water streams outgoing, but particularly one of our water streams is from our brewing process. And the city actually uses our effluent, pays us for it, to actually use it in their waste management process, because it offset, instead of having to buy chemicals, they can use our organic effluent as an offset. And so it's very symbiotic, because otherwise we'd have to find another way to dispose of it. Similarly, we've had relationships with local farmers who take our grains and hops byproducts as well. So, and that was a big part of our decision to come here, that symbiotic relationship.
And another question that popped up in the Q&A is, someone said, I hear Richmond is a great place for breweries. Sean, could you expand upon what the ecosystem is like in Richmond?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think when we first came to Richmond, we were probably like the 12th, somewhere between the 12th to 15th brewery here. And now I think last time I counted, we were upwards of 40. So if you're looking for a brew pub or a place to get beers, there's lots of options in town. It's very symbiotic relationship. We view each other as kind of peers and partners. We open up our lab, for them if they need to do testing as well. So it's a lot of brew beer here.
Thank you, Sean. All right, so before wrapping up, I'd like to ask you all briefly to share one thing that you do for fun in the Richmond region. Gary, I'd like to start with you on this question.
Okay, it pops up again, does it? Is it soccer or football? I actually was a professional sportsman in my formative years, and always remained active. And there is a large soccer community obviously they have a professional team with the Richmond Kickers. My son actually played for them before he went to play soccer in Europe. And at all levels, I'm the ripe old age of 60 next month, but I still participate in over 45s. And all my children are active sports fans and participants. So, and the facilities are exceptional, and the sheer number of facilities. We play at Southside, and we have officials, and we have cookouts after the game. It's a really nice experience, even into the winter league, which goes indoors as well as outdoors. So yeah, it's good fun. It gets you diving into the community. I also, because my sporting prowess was in rugby, and the first thing I did was join James River Rugby Club, and a lot of our employees now come through that route. So yeah, if you're into sports, it's the place to be.
And Joe, what about you? What do you like to do for fun? Joe, I think you're on mute.
Okay, I was muted, I guess. So I was saying I like to hike. I like the nature. I like to be outside, and also Richmond is a great area. There is marvelous hiking trails along the St. James River, but then also there are many parks around where you can have nice walks. The mountains are at two-hour drives distance, and then if I want to make hiking a bit more exciting, I put a little ball in front of me, and then it becomes also many nice golf areas. So that's what I do usually. Yeah.
That doesn't sound bad at all. And Reinhard, what about you?
Well, for me, clearly it's mountain biking. There are excellent trail systems in the Richmond area. Favorite park I go to is the Pocahontas State Park, which has a wide variety of levels. Can ride some trails with kids, and then there are other ones that are really challenging. So this is one of the things I really enjoy in the Richmond area.
Thanks, Reinhard. And Sean, what about you? I'm sure that, of course, going to breweries is high on your list, but what other things do you like to do as well?
Yeah, breweries is high on the list, but I'm an avid fly fisherman, so I really like to head out to the Shenandoahs and throw in some hiking to get me to some kind of remote stream and go find some beautiful brook trout.
Awesome. Thank you all for that. We have received quite a few questions. Some of them are directed at specific panelists, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into that. The first question is for all the panelists. Why did your company originally choose Richmond? There are 50 states and thousands of cities in America. Why did your organization originally select Richmond? And Gary, I will go with you.
Okay, I would like to appear to be all wise and after the event and say it was the availability of labour, which of course has been incredibly successful. But actually, it was a nice place. It got a very comfortable feel to it. And if I'm going to uproot my entire family, I promised my wife I'd be 5 years. We're 12, 13 years here now. So we're established. One of my children is married, and we have our first grandchild. So we're here for a while. It's just a nice place.
And Sean, how about your perspective coming from the West Coast to the East Coast?
Yeah, like I said, some of the key things were just logistics, access to raw materials. We can get most of our packaging materials within 50 miles of where we are, so it just made it very efficient from that perspective. And then you layer in access to labor, which we've heard, and it's just it was just the interaction with the city. I mean, so everyone from I spoke about Leonard Sledge from the EDA to Councilwoman Cynthia Newbold to Mayor Stoney. It's a very welcoming community that you can work with the local government very easily, for things that you may need.
And we have a specific question for Mr. Eberl regarding the apprenticeship program. Could you elaborate a bit more on the process of establishing the apprenticeship program with regard to the cooperation of local educational institutions?
Sure. Well, the apprenticeship program is similar to what Gary was explaining, modeled after the European model. In countries like in Austria, Germany, that's a very common way of education and for companies to build their own workforces. So I used to work for the parent company for about 11 years. I experienced actually an apprenticeship program myself in my early days. And so we had experience from Europe, and we tried to model that here in the United States to basically be in line with what we see is working overseas. And since it's not directly available in the United States, we worked together with a local community college, John Tyler, and they tailored their curriculum based on our needs. So we basically worked with them, which was a process for sure over more than a year, to define a curriculum which would basically prepare those apprentices for their jobs with Anton Par. And it's a 3-year program. It starts in the high school year, where they work, I think, 8 hours a week or 12 hours a week. And then after the high school year, they change to 20 hours a week and then attend the John Tyler Community College. And that was basically the process for this program.
That seems pretty seamless to me. And another question that came through for all of the panelists is, what are some of the cultural differences of operating a business in the United States compared to your home country? Joe, how about let's start with you?
I think the business culture is just entirely different, and I think I said it in the beginning, and that goes through everything what you do basically. In the US, the business means cooperating together and making good money together. You know, that's the reasoning why people want to work together, is because there is really a win-win situation, and it's okay to win on both sides, and not always that kind of mentality is present. Especially the more you go to the south of Europe, it becomes more of sometimes a win-lose situation where customers want to win and suppliers have to lose. So that's of course a different culture, and it goes in everything. It means also that as a supplier or as a manufacturer, you probably won't squeeze your suppliers to the bottom either. I mean, it is just a different culture, a different way of doing business. Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. And Gary, how about your perspective on that question? Any cultural differences in operating your business here in the United States?
Yeah, Casey, I would echo what Joe was saying there. I mean, specifically, fundamentally, it is a massive country, and the opportunities are there, and the appetite is very different to that of the European sort of model. I find that their openness to listen to what you've got gives you that opportunity. So actually conducting and winning the business, I find a very nice process, very open, and a lot less sort of behind closed doors and skullduggery and bartering and all the things you get in mainland Europe. So I think it's healthy. It's always got a heat, and if you've got a good product, the opportunities are immense. I mean, ProSeal is a global company now, but we expect the majority of our growth to be in North America in the next 3 to 5 years, because it's an expanding market.
Awesome. And someone is also curious about the pandemic and how, if the pandemic has impacted your business operations, and if so, in what capacity. Sean, has COVID or the pandemic impacted Stone Brewing at all in terms of their operations?
I mean, the primary impact we've seen is in our product mix. Naturally, when bars and restaurants shut down, our kind of draft business is a big converted package. But in terms of our people, we've been very, very fortunate. We've had no workplace transmissions. We've been able to operate fully from day one. We've just put in place the appropriate kind of safety culture, protocols, social distancing, masks, disinfecting, and it's actually been, thank you, knock wood. We've come through it without a hiccup.
And you've actually kind of shifted your product line a little bit. You've started canning to make up for the loss in people frequenting restaurants. Is that correct?
Yeah. So, whereas our draft business, our keg business, went almost to zero, the package business went up 30-40%. So we've been able to kind of pivot, and fortunately our suppliers were able to pivot and get us the additional materials that we've needed to get into cans and bottles as opposed to being in draft.
That's great to hear. And Joe, how about Alfa Laval? How have you been impacted by COVID, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, market-wise, of course, luckily Alfa Laval is actually working on multiple markets. We work on the energy sector, we work on the food and water and the pharmaceutical sector, and on the marine industry. And I always say, besides the COVID crisis, there also was an oil and gas crisis, and that actually started before the COVID situation. So yes, we were hit on the oil and gas side, but we definitely almost compensated it all by the growth in food and water industries, and also in the pharmaceutical industries. So Luckily, the impact was quite limited from an order intake point of view, and also from a supply perspective. We were always able to keep our sites up and running. Obviously, we took all the safety measures, like probably my colleagues on the panel here all have done. And we see let's touch wood that it continues like that. I must say that if I would have known where we are now compared to in the beginning of the pandemic, I would have signed immediately for this scenario. Also, some positive things came out of it, and you can see that actually people started to work much more in a digital way, and that of course will stick. Also, in our sales teams reaching out close to customers are very much interacting with our customers in a digital way, because also customers are open to interact now digitally with us. So definitely some positive changes as well, no doubt.
I think that wraps us up perfectly. We're all engaging in this content in a virtual manner, so we have all adapted digitally to continue to have engaging and informational conversations. So I want to thank you all for your time and for being incredible corporate citizens here in the Richmond region. I'd like to welcome Audrey Polk with the Greater Richmond Partnership back to close us out.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Casey. Thank you to our panelists. You all are excellent. We love leaning on your expertise. To our audience members, we put the link to sign up for the Select USA event in the chat box. If that time and date does not work for you, not a problem. Send me an email and we'll work around your schedule. Thank you all again for tuning in today. This concludes our webinar. Have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you very soon.